Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. This is Tie the Knot with the maker, the romantic Mochiga. This is a beautiful show that is about marriage. We are redefining marriage. Marriage has a lot of negativity, but I started this show to make you guys know that marriage is good. Thank you so much for always watching, subscribing. We are really growing tremendously. And I'm thankful that the comments I get to read every time, people are saying they've learned a lot and they are still learning a lot. So that gives me more energy to keep moving. Now, today on the show, I'm hosting a very, very good friend of mine. She's been here before with her husband, but today I felt the need to bring her back. Yeah. As a person, I'll also get the husband alone. As a person. Now, the single people have been saying, Banange Meka, we the single people, you've not cared for us, you've not catered for us. So single people, you want your fellow single people to come and give you their experiences. But I decided to first bring a married woman who was once single to come and talk to you and tell you what to do while you're still waiting. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me is the good wife.
Yeah.
Mrs. Mwine. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back as a person.
As a person. Have you been?
Not bad. Yourself?
Not bad.
Yeah.
I'm seeing your channel is doing
My
great.
My channel is growing. Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please.
The good wife.
Yes.
It's the good wife, right?
Yes, and I feel like we're in similar fields.
Yes.
And so one of these days I should have you and your wife.
Let's first finish
finish these elections. No
once
problem.
we are done, we will come.
And I'm happy to wait.
Yeah.
I'm happy to wait. No, we are definitely in similar spaces.
Yeah.
Having conversations on marriage to encourage people that marriage is possible. It's possible for you to have a good, healthy, happy marriage. But today we are here for the single women.
For the single women.
Yes.
So the single women, grab your popcorn, grab a drink. Okay.
Yeah.
Rachel, what is it like to be single?
So first of all, I was single very many years ago. I've been married almost 12 years. And I got married, I think I was 28, 29, thereabouts.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think being single is an interesting season of your life. You're discovering a lot about yourself. Sometimes intentionally, other times unintentionally. There's a lot of relationship trying.
Yeah.
You know, you're dating here, you're dating there. Also, I feel like your platonic relationships are whether evolving, you're getting to understand who your friends are, you're going through life challenges and it's kind of showing you, okay, this person is for you, maybe this one is not for you. That's the time when you are working, you're building your career.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in terms of growth and self-discovery, but I feel like for many single people, it happens unintentionally. We live life unintentionally. Like you go through a breakup, you don't learn anything from it, move to the next relationship, don't learn anything from it. Here you're quarreling with your girlfriends, you're not really learning and discovering yourself. So by the time people get into marriage, they are just happy to be in the marriage space, but they have no clue who they are. They have no clue what their weaknesses are, where their strengths lie. Maybe in the workplace, they have an idea like, we have boss ladies these days. I'm a boss lady, I'm a go-getter, I'm an achiever.
Yes.
But when it comes to you as a person, let me say you as Pamela or you as Barbara or you as Rachel, you don't really understand yourself. And that's bound to cause clashing in the marriage space.
All right. So most of the single ladies these days want to first build themselves.
True.
They want to have something on their own. And I've spoken to a couple of men who are married and some who are actually not married, single men. I don't know why why do you think single men are intimidated with ladies who have achieved a certain type of success?
I think it's in the way men are wired. Men are wired to provide. Men are wired to be a solution or solutions to women.
Yes.
When they come into a relationship with a woman, I know, for example, my husband, he prides himself in being able to do things for me, to buy stuff for me, to make sure I'm comfortable. And I think that what do I call it? It's something that God placed in men to be able to take care of the people that they love.
Yeah.
And so when they find that a woman is comfortable, she can pay her bills, she has a house, she has land, she has property in her name. It's like, now where do I start? Like, am I useful?
Yes.
Am I valuable to this woman? Maybe not. So let me go to someone else, maybe who isn't at this level. And I think also we've seen in the past that women who are successful, we've had this conversation on the other channel that I host, Reality Check.
Yes.
Women who are successful then tend to be different. They may not be as humble as women who don't necessarily have.
Yes.
And that's debatable. There are women who are successful that we've seen who then lord themselves over the husband or the person that they are with. So it's like, me, this is what I'm bringing to the table. What are you bringing to the table? So it becomes an issue of competition, a clash of egos, and men, I guess, just don't want to deal with that. So it's like, I'd rather go with someone who I can build, or maybe we can build together.
Yeah.
And that would cause less tension.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rachel, do you believe that as a single lady, a lady, okay, let's say as a lady who has been single and she gets married, do you believe in this whole notion of I can build my man and together we achieve? Because we've had a lot, I hear a lot of those stories these days that I don't build a man, because you build a man when both of you are poor, then when he gets up there,
he might do things.
He will go and get the love of his life.
Yeah, and it has happened. Yeah, it has happened. And I think for you to hear women speak like that means that there's a record of men who have been built, quote unquote, like, I supported him to build his business, or I supported him in his career, sent him to school, paid for his tuition.
Wow.
And then when he was successful, he found another person, or he cheated on me. Suddenly he's become famous, and now other people find him attractive. But when he was down, nobody found him attractive except me. So that has happened. So, and I can understand why women are skeptical about this whole Twezimbe. Let me find someone who is already established. I do feel, though, that I don't necessarily think it is the scenario that creates, or not creates, it's the Twezimbe notion that forces someone to go and cheat.
Yeah.
I think that people cheat because of poor character. I think that people cheat because of poor decision making. They have not been formed as people. So it just so happens that you supported this man, and somehow he has found his wings. He feels like he's someone in society, and now the world is his oyster. He can have whichever woman that he wants. That's a character issue. It's not the money.
It's not the money.
No, it's not that you supported him and now he wants to get back at you, or he feels like, now I can go and have whichever woman I have. I think we blame things that are not to be blamed often for a character issue. People cheat because of character, not because they have money,
they have power,
or they have power, or they have influence.
It
is them as an individual, which is why when you cheat, you deal with the person. You're not, yes, there are all these things that have triggered you. Maybe the money was an influence. It supported you to take women out for drinks. Take this woman out to Dubai, take another one to, I don't know, Turkey, wherever it is they take women these days. The money was a tool. But character is what makes people make certain decisions. And I think you may be in a scenario like that, or you may despise that kind of scenario, but then you might even find a man who is established and he'll cheat on you. He'll be unfaithful to you. So again, it's not the money, it's not how you guys came together, it's not the seasons that you're in, it's the individual. So
you're trying to mean that, okay, it's not about them, but should we say that it's him getting there that brings out the real him? Because when he's still poor when he was very humble, you were his alpha and omega, but now the money has come.
So I think that there was a character issue already, even in his poverty. It's just that when you are poor, you don't really have many options. You don't really
You're humble.
You are humble. You have to be humble, because your situation dictates that you are humble. And I think it's a false humility. It's not genuine humility. And so when you're poor and you can't even afford a meal, how are you going to take another woman out? You know, you're very grateful that this woman has stuck by you.
Yeah.
Because again, like I said, men are wired to take care of, to provide and take care of the people that they love. So if he can't do that, he's already struggling with his self-esteem and self-confidence. But there's this one woman who has stuck by him. So out of gratitude and out of Bambi, I really don't have many options. Let me stay with this person. But now when he gets money, that character flaw, that character that has not been formed to say, this is my person, I need to be loyal to her. So he doesn't understand loyalty in the real sense of the word.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand faithfulness. Or maybe he does, but he feels like, I have options now. You know, back to character. The money is a tool. It has influenced him to be a certain way. But I think at the root of it, it's character. Yeah.
All right. So what qualities do you think are essential for a single woman to look out for in a potential partner? Like those qualities that every single lady should look out for. Like, wow.
Can I just comment? I feel like right now many women are looking for a man who has money. And I think there's nothing wrong with that per se.
There's nothing wrong with looking for a man with money. Why?
Because you want a comfortable
Love
life.
me for who I am.
No. We need some kamani.
Yeah, we need some kamani.
Yeah, we need some money because we're not going to eat our love.
Yeah.
We need to survive. We need to have a comfortable life. I need to know that we are going to be taken care of.
Yes.
That the house will not crumble because you don't have a source of income. So I think that that's a good thing. I don't know if it's at the top of the list. I think for me at the top of the list, look for someone who is kind.
Kind.
Yes. Kind, empathetic, gentle. Those are qualities that are not tangible. You can't touch them.
Yeah.
But you can tell a man who is kind. For example, if you go to a restaurant and the waiter messes up the order. Genuine. It was a genuine mistake. And he blows a fuse and he calls the manager and, you know, makes a big deal out of it. I think it's in situations like that where you can tell, is this man kind? Because the way he's behaving with outsiders is not going to be very different from the way he behaves with you. You know, and I think when push comes to shove, because life is made out of seasons, you want someone who is going to be kind when you're weak, kind when you are not able to take care of him the way he would want to. As women, we are going to go into childbirth. If a man is kind, he's going to be thinking about you like, my wife just had a baby, I want to support her, how can I be there for her at home? A man who is not kind is going to demand that you behave the same way you do when you're not going through childbirth.
Yeah.
The expectations won't change, you know. And so I think look for men of character. Look for a man who is kind, a man who is formed, a man who can lead. You know, I think with the whole equality conversation, many times now, we want to be the same with the men. But men are called to lead. Men are called to lead.
With the equality?
They are called to lead. We are equal in the sense that we are all human beings.
We are all human beings.
And we are deserving of the things that human beings deserve.
Yeah.
Air to breathe, the right accommodation, food, resources. If it's in the workplace, if it's a job that we can all do, I think that conversation should be had.
Yeah.
That if the man is getting 7 million shillings for a role, I should be considered to get 7 million shillings as well. So that's not in question.
Yeah.
I think that in the home, men and women have different roles, which means we cannot be the same. So men are called to lead. If you're looking for a husband or husband material, look for someone who can take charge. And you can see that through different things. Like when your car is
dead.
Can he take charge and say, babe, this is what I think we're going to do. Let me call the mechanic. That's leadership. He's taking charge. And that's even on the small scale. Now, what happens with big things where you're like, okay, we need to buy land or a decision needs to be made. Maybe they are sending him to work in Qatar and maybe the family is here. You need him to take charge and say, maybe these are my ideas. This is what I think we should be doing. So look for a man who can lead, you know. I think that's very, very important. And then, of course, I've spoken about provision. He should have demonstrated the ability to provide for you.
When you're still
Even
dating.
when you're still dating,
So he's supposed to give you money for hey, yeah.
Well, yes, I think because that's really the provision that he can do, because you're not living together, so he's not really buying you groceries. And I think many men express provision differently.
Yeah.
A man will maybe want his madam to look very nice, so he's like, "This, just know your hair man is on me, your nails and all of that." But I also feel like men these days are very woke. They are like, hair of 500K.
A wig of 1 million.
A wig of 1 million, which are there, by the way, they are there. But guys are like, people, things have become too expensive. Maybe you take care of your beauty, your hair things.
I'll take care of
me,
other
I can
things.
put fuel in your car. When we go out to eat, I can
pay the bills.
Yeah, I can pay the bills. But that's not to say, ladies, that then you can't also take care of
yourself.
Of yourself, but also of him. I was having a conversation with a friend, I think on another show, and he was expressing, a guy was expressing that I think that women have been conditioned to think that only them deserve to be taken care of. Men also would like to be taken care of. You may not do the whole 360 provision, but you can do certain things. Once in a while when you go out, pay the bill. You won't die.
You won't die.
You know? You won't die.
Yeah.
Say, babe, this week I'm going to buy you fuel.
Full tank on me.
Ladies are like, this a lie. We're not buying fuel for these men. So that they can go to the side dishes home. No, Bambi. Just take care of him out of the goodness of your heart.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all the time, but do something for him. Do something nice for him. I think there's really nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I think off the top of my head, those would be the maybe top 3 things.
God-fearing.
Yeah, God-fearing. Yeah, definitely. God-fearing is, oh my goodness, top of the list.
Top of the list.
A man who fears God will go to great lengths, to improve himself for you, but also for himself. So God-fearing, look for a man who is kind, a man who is on a journey of consistent growth, because nobody is perfect.
Yeah.
And if you find a man who is like me, that's how I am, you know, he has anger outbursts and he's not apologetic, he's not repentant, I think that's a red flag. Because when you get into marriage and you're having conflict, he's not the one who's going to be quick to apologize. In fact, he will justify his wrongdoing. But there are men who understand their weaknesses. They're saying, look, I struggle with procrastination, I struggle with communication, I struggle with all of this stuff, but be patient with me. Like, I'm really trying. I'm watching these videos. I have this mentor. You see that there's effort to grow. That's a good man. That is a good man to marry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Let's talk about now let's first go back to provision.
Okay. Provision.
So when ladies are single before they get married, yes, a man is supposed to provide, to prove that even in marriage he's supposed to provide for you. But now, if he's providing, in return, what is
he getting?
What is he getting? What is the boyfriend getting from the girlfriend?
Yeah.
This is when you find that, okay, over the weekends, girls go visit their boyfriends.
They wash their clothes.
And so ladies are like, I cannot do wifely duties before I get married. But when he is providing, he's doing a husband duty.
Double standards.
Double standards. Let's first address that.
It's interesting you bring that up. Yeah. I think that, I mean, in light of that, then maybe let everybody stay in their lane. I also think that, like you've mentioned, when people begin to do things of a wife or things of a husband, the lines become blurry. The lines become very blurry. And so even in that provision, you find that girlfriends are making such serious demands. You know, like maybe I'm traveling to go for barrio, I need money for, for fuel, or I need money for mabugo, or my mom is sick now, you send me money. So I feel like now the lines have become a bit confusing. You're not yet my wife. I get that your mom is sick, and I mean, out of the kindness of my heart, I will give you some money. But don't demand for it. Which is why I was saying that when you go out, there's nothing wrong with you paying the bill, because you're still boyfriend and girlfriend. And I think that virtue can be passed on even in marriage, because now you've become a unit, you become one home, that it's okay for you to contribute. But this thing where you sit back and wait for the man to provide, if he's not providing, then that you label him a non-provider, I don't think is fair, but also it gives you the misconception that in marriage, things are always going to look like this. Seasons change. What happens when he's out of a job?
Yeah.
What happens if he gets an accident and he can't work and he's seated on the couch? You know, what happens if he's sick and he can't work? Are you going to sit back and say, they told me the man provides. Therefore, you find a way, even in your sickness, you know? And so I think that when you're dating, there's a place for your boyfriend to impress you.
Yeah.
By paying bills every so often, maybe more often than you do. There's also a place for you to do certain little things for him that show him, by the way, I'm committed to you. It may not be washing your clothes. It may not even be coming home over the weekend to be a weekend wife. Because now there you have entered a zone that is no return. And now when a breakup happens, people are really bitter. You know, like, I did a lot for this guy. I was at his home. I used to clean his house. So I think let's maintain the lines, which is, I am a girlfriend. I do girlfriend things. We talk on the phone. We go out every so often. I do something nice for your birthday. Let's keep it basic and simple until you have made up your mind that I am the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's keep it simple, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep it simple. Also, girls, please stop making these outrageous demands. Really?
The men are clapping.
I'm sure they are.
Because honestly, I've been you see people who watch this channel, single people, you know, people send me messages, mostly the singles, and they're like, man, Emeka, I'm dating this girl and she's making demands. You get, she's making demands. She wants me to do this and this for her because she saw that her friend's boyfriend bought her a car.
But also this boyfriend.
I mean, you are just dating and you want your boyfriend to buy you a car. Another one sent me a message and he told me, Emeka, my girlfriend just broke up with me just because I cannot buy her a car. I cannot afford to buy her a car.
Really, girls?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Then there's another one who was like, do you know what, Emeka? I'm just going to get my car. I give it to my girlfriend. Because I mean, the demands are way high. I want to thank you so much for addressing this.
Yeah.
Let's keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Single people, let's keep it simple.
Yeah, let's keep it simple. I think that, so first of all, as I was starting earlier, I felt like the dating landscape has changed so much from like when back then I was dating my husband.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of materialism in today's dating world.
It's too much.
It's a lot. But there's also a lot of casual sex, which is probably why the women make these demands, because the men are hoping that they are going to get something sexual out of this relationship. And so, again, that goes back to the crossing lines and crossing boundaries, because now you have entered territory where if I give you my body, my precious body, I would like an equal, okay, it's not equal, but like a heavy reward.
A heavy reward for giving you my body.
For giving you my body, you know? And so I think that, back to keeping it simple, men, if you want to marry this lady, if you want to have sex with her, marry her. And do it in the right context. So that you don't enter a territory where now demands are being made, you're not sure, is she allowed to make a demand like this? But then you have already entered a territory where you have asked her of something. Now she's asking you for something in return. So both of us, men and women, let's keep it simple.
Now let's talk about that casual sex in dating amongst single people. You know, it's too much.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And now, what do you have to say about this? Should people be celibate? Should people wait to have sex before they get married?
Emeka,
to the single ladies.
Emeka, you're asking me this question. I'm sure you know my answer.
You have to know. Just give us your answer. Because people need to listen. People need to get this and they need to understand this. And also tell us the repercussions of having this casual sex while you're still dating. You're still single, but you're not yet married.
So I come from the school of thought, or rather, I have the school of thought that we should be celibate before we get married. But I think the way the world is set up today is such that people have justified their reasons for having sex before they are married.
Yeah.
It's almost like, so sex outside of marriage has been so normalized that those of you who say we shouldn't have sex, you are the outliers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? How do you expect me to not have sex before I get married? And, you know, men will say, how will I know that she can perform? Or how will I...
That's always
that's always the reason. Like, how will I know she can perform? There's a lot of things you will
I've also met ladies,
never know.
Like, when I'm still single, ladies would tell me, I do not want a man who is a virgin. I do not want a man who has never had it before.
Are you serious?
Yes. Like, these are respectable people.
It's so appalling, because the way I think about sex in marriage is you're learning together. So obviously, like I said, in this world today, people are having sex. So more likely than not, you enter marriage where one of you has had sex before.
Yes.
Or maybe both of you have had sex before. What I think that does is it taints your experience, because now you have something to refer to, as opposed to building together as a couple to say, this is our, I'm going to use the word DNA in terms of sex.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that sex between two people is different. You know, the way you had sex with the girlfriends that you had is going to be different from the way you have sex with your wife. And what helps in marriage is that you have the boundary to say, we are going to create our sex life. I guess that's why it's called sex life.
Sex life.
We're going to create our intimacy based on our rules and what we both like, what we don't like, but in the sanctity and safety of marriage. The thing about dating and having it before is now you have a reference point, and if your wife or husband is falling short for some reason, it's going to bring frustration.
Yeah.
And there'll be an unintentional comparison to the sex that you have been having before.
Yes.
So it takes away from the, let's learn together, let's grow. Let me learn your body as you learn mine. Let me learn what you like as I learn what you like, so that you create your sex life. And I think sex in the first year of your marriage is going to be very different from sex in the 7th year of your marriage, because other things, other factors are affecting your sex life. How you're resolving conflict, how you're relating as a couple, and all of that happens because marriage is for life. You know, I'm not just dating and seeing, okay, me and Emeka, are we going to last? No. You've said we are together for life. So you have the rest of your life to figure out this sex thing. So for me, I would honestly encourage women and men to be celibate before you get married. If it's something that you have been doing, you can always start afresh and say, you know what, I'm not going to have sex maybe until my husband comes or until my wife comes, so that I remove the reference point and look forward to creating something with the person that I love and the person that I've decided to spend the rest of my life with.
So you think it's very possible to be celibate?
I think it is possible. And back to the issue of character, I think it is possible. Today I was listening to a sermon and the preacher, Derek Prince, was talking about the power of a decision. We often do things and allow ourselves to be in certain situations because we have just not decided to get out of those decisions. Let me give an example of, maybe you're timid, you don't like speaking in public. That's a fear, it's valid. You can acknowledge it and validate it. Yeah. But then you can choose to get out of that space and say, you know what, I'm not going to fear anymore. What are some things that I can do to stop fearing speaking in public? That's low level. So now let's talk about sex. I've had people who say, oh my gosh, Rachel, I couldn't help myself. You know how our bodies are. I'm like, you're not an animal. You have willpower. You're able to make a choice and say, I'm not going to have sex. Even though your body demands it, you have a brain and will, and you can tell yourself, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'll be like, you know how it is, one thing led to another. Just don't do that. Make up your mind to be celibate. It's a choice, it's a decision, it can be made. Will it be easy? No. It's going to be hard because there's temptation everywhere. My goodness.
It's too much.
On Instagram,
Hey.
on TikTok,
Ha.
in the office. My God. You know?
Person comes with a short dress and
you're like, now look at this one. My decision to be celibate. So just make up your mind and then work towards that. But I think often we are like, okay, yeah, they're telling us to be celibate, but you know how the world is. So you don't decide. Therefore, you are going to be prone to temptation. And when you're prone to temptation, you will give in because you have not made up your mind. So I think it's possible.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
Interesting. So to the single people, man, stop having casual sex. It's
it's and maybe just one last thing on sex. Sex is very spiritual. Sex is very spiritual because when the Bible says that when a man and woman join together, they become one.
Yeah.
When you have sex with someone, you become one with that person.
Yes.
Now, whatever that person carries, also you, whatever you carry, you join all of your things together in the spirit realm. So imagine dealing with that baggage and bringing that baggage into a marriage. If married people were very honest, if they were very honest and open,
yes,
they would tell you the things that they are dealing with, especially in their sex lives. Yeah, especially in their sex lives. So if you think that this is just a meeting of bodies and body parts, don't be deceived.
Sex is spiritual.
Very spiritual. And you can see the repercussions because they will show up in the physical.
Yeah.
You know, some people have, struggled with even things like infertility, perhaps because of the way they managed sex. And I don't say that very lightly because I know how heavy infertility is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there are certain things that we see in our lives that are as a result of how we handled our sex or our bodies before we got married. So there's infertility, you might even struggle to get a spouse, you know. Some people have dreams of them having sex with things that they don't understand, with people that they don't understand. So it's a real world. The spirit world is real. And if I could give this example, there are people, I mean, if you've heard of like pastors who are told if you want more power, you need to sleep with a certain number of virgins. Why do you think that is? Is it just for the sake of the pastor having sex? There is something powerful about sex. Yes, something very powerful about
certain
sex.
pastors.
I've seen stories where they say this pastor, okay, the ones who come out and they are delivered and they're saying this was my journey. I wanted power. I wanted influence. Therefore, I was told by whoever was giving me influence, make sure you have sex with virgins, women who have not had sex. And that is a representation in the physical, but it's also a representation in the spirit.
The spiritual.
There's something powerful about sex because it is spiritual.
Wow.
So if you misuse or if you mishandle that, if you mishandle sex before you get married and you're just casual about it, then it could affect the rest of your life. Yeah.
So our pastors keep on telling us that when you have sex and you're not married, people bring STDs, not only sexually transmitted diseases, but also sexually transmitted demons.
Oh, yes. Sexually transmitted demons, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, and we've seen these things, Banang. And like I said, if married people were open about the struggles that happen in homes, a lot of it, or some of it, is because of casual sex.
Casual sex.
Sex before you got married. And which is why it's encouraged for couples, like when you're getting married, to kind of go through a repentance of your past life, saying that, this is how I lived my life, but I'm leaving that behind. I'm now walking a path with God. So people go through, scenarios like that. And it's really because we mishandle this thing, which we think, it's just casual. I'm dating this guy. If I don't have sex with him, he's going to dump me. Let him dump you. Let him dump you and you wait for your husband.
Interesting. Stop having casual sex, guys. Anyway, so Rachel, what are some of the common mistakes single women make when they are single, and how can they be overcome?
I think one of the mistakes that we make, I started off by saying that in your singleness, I'm assuming that's from like when you're 23, 24 to maybe like your mid 30s, when you hope to get married. So that window is not learning from your mistakes, not learning from your experiences. Because in that stretch of your life, there's a lot that's happening. You're making friends, you're losing friends, your career is growing, you're dating, and there's some heartbreaks, you're ending relationships, beginning others. And I think the mistake, for example, that I feel like I made was not learning from my life experiences. I just kind of went through life, something would begin, it would end, and I'll be like, oh, well, that is life, kind of move on. And I didn't use that time to understand self. I didn't use that time to grow. I didn't use that time to learn from my experiences. And so it made the first years of my marriage pretty difficult because I thought of myself in a certain way, and yet that's not really how I was. There was a lot of learning and growing that I had to do. And so I think that's a mistake that many women make.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think women struggle with is self-worth.
Self-worth.
Yes, self-worth, self-confidence. You don't understand your worth. You don't understand your identity. So that even means you don't even know what you deserve. So any man comes and it's like, oh my gosh, time is running out. Let me just say yes, to this one. If I don't say yes, I might spend another 10 years. But is he really the one for you? Based on your self-confidence, based on your identity. So it's important for you to take a journey with yourself. Who are you? What informs your identity? What informs who you are before you accept somebody else into your life? Because you're going to merge lives with this person and you're just going to be triggered by so many things because you don't understand yourself. Your identity, maybe you have a low view of yourself. You have pegged your identity maybe to your career.
Yeah.
So if the man suggests maybe that you move to a different country, be like, I have a job here, what? Because for you, your career is your everything, You've pegged your identity to what? What do we peg? To money and wealth. So it's important for you to understand where is my identity anchored. And I think just not knowing what you want in a man and in a person is a mistake that people make. The other one, which we have just talked about, is giving into sex too early. Yeah. I think once sex enters the picture, then it's very difficult for you to see any red flags. And you'd be like, guys, I've already given in so much. Let's just go the whole way.
Let's go with the flow.
Even though there are red flags everywhere, So yeah, those are some of the mistakes that I think single women make.
And how did your expectations in marriage differ from reality? Because when many single ladies are getting into marriage, they have these big expectations. Yes. Open the door for me. Flowers, carry me, do this. You get like they picture this Hollywood kind of marriage you get. But on ground,
it's a different story.
Things are different.
Yeah.
So let's start with your experience. How did you manage these expectations, and how do you think how did your expectations differ from the reality, and how do you think single ladies can manage their expectations?
First of all, when we are dating, I think people need to understand that we all put our best foot forward.
We put our
best foot forward. I'm trying to be at my best behavior. My boyfriend is also trying to impress me. So there's a lot of acting. There's a lot of, this is not really who I am, but because I want to impress this girl, I'm going to open the door for her. I'm going to take her to this very expensive restaurant. I'm going to pay the bills, even though I really wish she could also pay the bill.
Rachel for president.
For the men, the women will not like me.
But just saying the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I wish she could also pay the bill. I mean, what's wrong with that? So when we are dating, we are I think we are living like 1% of who we really are.
Yeah.
Also, remember, you show up a couple of hours, maybe a day or two, you're together, and I don't really get to see the real you. what happens when you get married? So I worked with my husband before we got married.
You got married.
I had an idea of who he was and the kind of person he was. But like I told you, I feel like I was very immature in the sense that I didn't relate. I didn't think, I felt like maybe he would be different with me.
Yeah.
And so when we got married and now we would like have conflict, he would be his usual self. You know, my husband likes to use very big English words. So we'd have conversations and I would be so lost. I'd be like, wait, is it my fault or your fault? Like, I'm the one who came to you with the issue. Why does it feel like the guns have turned, now they are facing me, you know? And so that is something that I saw in the workplace.
Yeah.
You know, I because he was manager at the time. And so it's things like that where you're not really critically thinking and analyzing your situation, analyzing the person that you are with and who they really are, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. But also I didn't really understand myself. So in terms of expectations, because we really, really loved each other, and I thought that that love was going to be, like we were constantly going to be in, I don't know how to explain, like a cloud of love where it's like, oh my gosh, you wake up, kisses in the morning.
Yeah.
And, you know, do you want some breakfast? I bring you
bed.
breakfast in bed. And me, I'm very big on homemaking. So I hoped that he would support me, wash dishes for me. And my husband is like, I'm not washing dishes. It's not my portion in life. And so those things were frustrating me. I'm like, why isn't he being the same loving person that I thought he was or that I had experienced before we got married? And so I think that, you need to understand before you get married, it's a completely different context.
Yeah.
Now you're living with a person. Before you were not. Living with a person and not living with them are two different things. Living with a person and dating them, completely different.
Different.
You're going to see him in his best light. He'll be dressed nicely. Maybe once in a while you might see him in a vest and his boxers, and okay, that's not too bad. But have you seen him when he has had a bad day at work and you have to stay in the same house? He's had a board meeting and they've torn him to shreds. The managers are demanding certain numbers, and so now he's back home and he's grumpy, or his football team has lost. And you have to sleep in the same house. Not you're seeing him and then you're going back to your house.
Wasn't Liverpool kicked out of the Champions League?
It's just that my husband understands Liverpool, so it doesn't really affect his mood.
Yes.
It doesn't affect his mood. So
Yeah.
I think that we need to come out of that, oh, I'm dating this person and life is going, our marriage is going to be a continuation of our dating life. Yes, it's a continuation, but very different dynamics.
Yeah.
Because now he doesn't have to act. You don't have to act either. You're just your normal selves. And I can be as raw as possible because this person has accepted me the way I am. So I'm not going to try and impress you. You have seen me naked, I have seen you naked. Kati, what more do you want? You know, so understanding that the two scenarios are different and just going with an open mind based on this man is kind, he's empathetic, he's going to lead me. Let me focus on that. Let's see how we can both grow to make our marriage work. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. Now, let's talk about cohabiting.
But you're asking me hard questions. Go ahead.
Very many single ladies and single men, people, I've even, there's a time, I think in around 2016, I talked to an elder from a certain church.
Okay.
And she was talking to a group of boys, and she was like, by the way, you, first stay with those women you're going to marry.
Really?
And get to, yes. And she broke it down for us. I'm like, wait a minute. She's
An
like,
elder in that church?
some church there.
Okay.
Yes. And she was giving the realities that people face. First of all, if you don't stay together, you're not going to learn who this person is. But when you stay together before getting married, you will get to know what to deal with and what not to deal with when you get married. And so, I've met a couple of single people, single men, single women who say that, me, I want to first stay with this person. Because I've seen married people some people who have been married and they tell you the first 2 years of marriage were hard. And you're like, why? We were staying together for the very first time. She wants her things done in a certain way. I want my things done in a certain way.
Yes.
She wants this to be facing this way. Like, there are those clashes. Rachel, very many people come and tell me, Emeka, marriage would have been good. Yeah. You get, there's even a time I called a friend when they got, but they were so in love when they got married. Very in love.
Yes.
My guy was like, bro, why didn't they tell us these things? You know, because you're used to her coming over the weekend to your place, blah, blah, blah.
Finding your things the way they are.
But man, you get. Hence, people say, once you cohabit, you get to deal with certain things. And like, okay, now I will deal with this in such a way when we are married. I will not deal with this. Find a way of changing this. What's your thought on that?
Is that what really happens?
I just want to get your thought. To the single people, they need to know these things.
And let me look at the camera. The people who are cohabiting, is that what really happens? That a man is there saying, okay, now when we get married, I'm going to deal. Forget it. The man feels like, now this one at least, I have peace for another, 5 years. Meanwhile, you as the woman, you're hoping that this is going to lead you towards what?
Marriage.
Towards marriage. The truth is, and I'm going to quote Dr. Evers, you have given up your power. You've given up your negotiating and bargaining power, because the moment you move in with this person,
yes,
he's going to wonder, why do we need to be married? Because we're already living the married life. We're living together, we're having sex, we're probably having children. I provide. So what is a ring? What is the... So now you tell me what you're going to say when he says that marriage is important, we need to seal that deal. But the deal has been sealed.
It has been sealed. You've given me children.
Yes. But what more do you want? So I feel like if marriage is really important to you, you will take it with all of its, the way it comes as a package. Because maybe, and why I really like this show is you're trying to show people that marriage is doable.
It's doable, yeah.
Now, the reason we are trying to do that, laboring to do that, is we're not negating the bad things that happen in marriage or the troubles and challenges that come with it, because they are there. It's part of the package. It's part of the journey. That's why when people are celebrating 25 years and 50 years, you look at them and it's like, wow, look at all the things we have conquered and we are still here. So if you're telling me that cohabitation is a time for you to gauge this issue, I can deal with this one, I don't buy it, not for a second. Because you're going to settle. There's no hurry, there's no urgency to be married, which also for me tells me that maybe you don't see marriage for what it is. You are maybe those people who think, marriage is overrated, I don't need a ring to show this person that I love them. And you do you. Everyone to each their own. But if marriage is something that's important to you because you want to do things in the right context, based on your worldview, because there are many people who don't believe in marriage as, doing the right thing. Marriage is a societal construct. Marriage is just something that, culture brought for us. I believe God created marriage. And so I want to do it the way God intended for it to happen. So if that's important to you, then don't settle. Because once you do, the moment you enter the house and start bearing children, maybe you'll get married like after 10, 15 years, but the battle to finally getting married and, and again, like the married people, if people who cohabit were genuinely honest, there's a lot of struggle, I think, that would happen. If I'm just thinking, if it were me and I was in that home, so now you show up, for example, at a function, you're not really Mr. and Mrs. You are just George and Claire who have come to this function. So you're not really a married couple. And I think maybe that affects women more than it affects men.
Yeah.
Because we want to be labeled for who we are. Are you a married couple or you're just a couple? Okay, we're just a couple. So you say maybe, I don't really care about those marriage things. That's fine. Then you go and do the cohabiting. But if marriage is something that you care about, then just do it the right way. And I know many people will say, I don't have the money. That's usually the excuse that men give. Like, I don't have the money, I can't afford to do all of this. And I get that, because marriage also has been commercialized.
Yeah, so much.
So much. The things that happen at Kwanjulas. My God.
Wait. 3G, flat
3G,
screen,
sofa
sofa sets, what? Others come splashing, and the lady's like, I want that.
So now the woman is putting pressure on the man. The man is saying, Banang, I didn't want this. Now he has to show up with us. So I'm told they hire those things.
Yeah, there are things they hire. Even most of the cars.
Really?
Yes. I think one day I need to
do a show on that.
I need to do a show on that and host these Baganda MCs. Double Gezi.
Please.
I need to bring Bakidao and he tells us
what happens.
What happens?
Why the show?
No, people just want to put up a show. There's one who went now. I have a friend who has a bond.
Yeah.
They import cars. And this guy tells me that they mostly make money from car rental.
No way.
They rent out cars over the weekend. Okay, there are people who come and rent out, let's say, like the V8s.
For like functions.
For functions.
Yeah.
Then he says, we make most money on weekends for Kwanjulas.
You are kidding.
No, I'm not. And he told me that people will come and say, Tebanange Subarus can move, Rachel. So they'll get a Subaru. And guess how much he will charge them?
How much?
2 million.
To rent it for the
function.
Rent
it out. They will go drive it, take it there. The man will pretend like, I have given you the car. They'll take pictures, blah, 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 blah. When the function is done,
yes,
they'll tell the parents of the girl, tukenze jikola service. And they will return the car to the bond. When you ask, where is your car? Now this, now that. He told me they make a lot of money.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, guys, what is this?
And ladies, they're actually women who reach a point of sponsoring their own Kwanjulas.
That happens.
They even hire those cars.
So the car, so is the car for the bride?
The lady hires the car for herself.
The man has given
the man has given me to show people.
What happened to the good old suitcase, Banange, with a pair of shoes and a gomez?
Yeah.
Now we are parading cars, sofa sets, fridges.
Yes.
I mean, I can understand why men are like, listen.
You know, others hire cows.
Even cows are hired.
Rachel,
when you host the mortgage, please alert me because I want to watch that show. My goodness.
I will. I'm actually looking for Bakidao.
Please.
I'm looking for Mzee Bakidao.
Please host him.
Yes.
I mean, he should tell us and maybe give us ideas on how we can make these traditional ceremonies as cost friendly
yes,
as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, so that men don't shy away from making an honest woman
and stay in cohabitation.
Yes, and get out of cohabitation.
You know, there's a wedding I emceed 3-4 years back.
Yeah.
This couple were together for 25 years.
Wow.
So I asked them, guys, am I hosting a wedding? Am I hosting an anniversary?
Yes.
Like, no, it's our wedding. And I kid you not, Rachel. In the 25 years they were married, they had 4 children. No, there were 5 children.
Adults now, yes.
The adults. Rachel, the woman was happy that day.
Wow.
The wife was happy that day. I know me, I'm always friends with my couples.
Yes, yes.
So I asked her, but mom, you're happy. She's like, you do not know. Even when she was giving her speech, she was like, in our language, Bantumwe. In English,
a big deal.
In English, it means, guys, the man has finally married me. Yes. After 5 children.
25 years. 25 years.
And you know what the man said? He's like, I felt like doing this and getting done with it.
So like, the men really, like, if I'm getting marital benefits, there's someone to cook for me, wash my clothes. why do I need to put a ring on it? Because putting a ring on it means he's spending money, which he doesn't want to. And it's like, now I have settled. I have a wife. They call you wife, but you're not really a wife, you know? And I think back to the spiritual aspect, again, there's a spiritualness about marriage. And so when you make that decision to say, I'm committing to this person, he's committing to me, you exchange rings, they pray over you, there's a realm that you enter, there's a space that you enter that is different from cohabitation, you know. And I think even in the spirit realm, there are protections, there are benefits that you get if you pray as a wife, if you pray as a husband, if you pray together. You've entered a different realm. And there are certain things that you may not be able to do spiritually if you stay on the cohabitation stage. You will pray, yes, God will hear you. Please don't get me wrong. But for you to be able now to get to the place where now you're married, he will always, I feel like the men will always find reason not to, it will never really be a priority. Because now we have children, the kids have to go to school. Now you want me to spend money on a wedding. Now also you be serious. We do a wedding when the kids have to go to school. See how they had to do it after 25 years. So please, don't cohabit.
Okay, Rachel, the other thing, don't say this is another hard one.
Question.
There are single ladies out there who prefer being with married men. The side dishes. And I've seen a couple of single women saying, me, I prefer
married men.
Why? He will provide. Secondly, he's not going to be stressing me. Like, they give all these reasons, and when you get back to the main reason as to why they want them, it rotates around material possessions. But what advice would you give to a lady who is in another person's marriage? Because, you remember that audio that was moving around, that I saw something beautiful, I saw a beautiful family, and I wanted to be part of it.
Wow.
You've not had that?
I haven't had it. Please send it to me after.
No, I'll tell it to you after the show.
Okay.
I don't want to, because the fans of that person will come for
They'll come for you.
They'll come for me. Anyway, so what do you have to say? Because marriage is a covenant, right?
True.
And every time I'm even talking to Becky, she's like, you come in between a covenant.
Yeah, you're messing things up.
You're messing things
for
up
yourself.
For yourself.
Yes.
Rachel, I want you to address that. Tell the single ladies how bad it is to be in another person's marriage.
First of all, that's, I think, highest demonstration of dysfunction for me, in my opinion. That you would want a married man. Like, think about that for a second. When you sit back and think about your life, you're like, okay, Rachel, you are 25, 26 now. What do you want for yourself? While people are saying, I want a thriving career, I want to one day settle down and get married. For you, you're plotting and saying, I want the one who is already taken. Like, how sick is that, honestly? How dysfunctional is that thought process? That you want a man who is already married, and the reasons, I've never really had a reason that for me holds any water. People will tell you, he doesn't stress me, he will go back to his wife and stress her. Me, I get a man who, I just help him relieve his stress, he gives me money, and then he goes back, to his wife. But to borrow Becky's words, marriage is a covenant between two people and God. So covenants are very different from agreements. When you make a covenant between God, the Bible says, be sure, first of all, so you can address this with the couple, but now we're addressing the one who is entering the covenant. You're making a covenant between you and God. Like, be sure about this covenant that you're making, because God, I paraphrase, but God is not amused by fools, basically. So people who make covenants, let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Be no.
And so I think that the principle of what you reap what you sow, you reap, comes into play with women who decide, I want to marry. I want a man who is married. That seed that you're sowing will come back to you. Tenfold, 1,000-fold. It may show up with your children or your children's children, but it will come back. Because everything we do, every choice we make is a seed we are sowing.
Yeah.
And so if you sow tears, because this woman will probably find out about you, she knows, my husband is seeing some chick, and the chick is comfortable. And she goes to God and cries before him and says, there's someone who is in my marriage. There's a verse in the Bible that says, God's ear is inclined to the cry of the righteous. So if God's ear is inclined to the cry of this woman who is saying, Banange, I married this man, Lord, we made vows before you, before people, we made vows with each other, but there's this other person who has entered my marriage. What do you think is going to happen? And it might seem like a lot of the things that we do in life are, nothing is happening. I'm not seeing consequences. So what is she talking about? If anything, my life is thriving. Maybe you've built a house out of the money this man has given you, you've bought land. Life seems to be great.
Yes.
But is it really? When you go to sleep at night, are you proud of yourself that, yeah, I've done well for myself?
There are those who feel proud.
That's what they say. That's what they say. Again, if people were genuinely honest, I think to the women out there who are attached to married men, what you sow, you reap. And if you're doing this and you want marriage for yourself, shame on you. Shame on you. Again, dysfunction.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Rachel, you've been married, coming close to 12 years.
Yes.
How has marriage impacted your personal growth? And what advice would you give to a single lady out there on how to evolve in their relationships and when they get into marriage?
I think that I have grown a lot in the years that I have been married than I ever did previously.
Yeah.
And I think I would attribute that to the fact that I didn't do much growing before I got married. I was not very intentional about it. Marriage has made me more gracious. I used to think that I am such a wonderful person and my husband is lucky to have me, and therefore, if anything is going wrong in our marriage, it must be his fault. It can't be mine. Marriage has shown me that I can be very self-centered and very selfish. It has shown me that I can be very proud, and I have demonstrated pride in many ways, where I know my husband has done something and I just don't feel like forgiving him. I don't even feel like talking to him in that moment. Or just feeling like I'm better than him.
Yeah.
Now, these are not things that we say to ourselves. We don't sit down and tell our girlfriends, can you believe I'm better than him? You know, he's so lucky to have married me. How could he do this? You think about, they're in your subconscious.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, marriage has opened my eyes to my flaws. It has opened my eyes to where I am weak. And if I'm being honest, it surprised me. It surprised me a lot because I was like, I'm such a good person. You know, people like me and I like people. So how come in my marriage, I realized that I'm struggling with selfishness or self-centeredness, or thinking terrible thoughts towards my husband because he has done something or he has not done something.
Yeah.
I've also learned to, like I said, extend grace.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's unforgivable in marriage.
Nothing is unforgivable.
Nothing is unforgivable. And I know that
Even
is
cheating.
Debate, even cheating. I know that that's debatable.
Yeah.
But in my world, I think that there's nothing that's unforgivable. There's nothing that cannot be resolved. The only thing that gets in the way of that is the hardness of our hearts, where I just decide, you know what, for me, this is I can't forgive this. You're just being hard. Your heart is hard. Yes, your heart, you are offended. You deserve justice. You deserve some level of fairness.
Yeah.
But like we've said, marriage is a covenant, and if you've made it and you're in it for the long haul, then you stick through it, including the things that come with it. And so I think I've become more conscious of God. I've become more conscious of my relationship with Him. I've matured, guys. I have really, really matured in the marriage space.
Wow. So to the single ladies, this is how you can grow personally when you're married. So you mean when you're single, there's not much growth?
There can be. And I think, which is when I was talking about growth earlier on, I said, if you can use that time, your single life, to grow, marriage will be sweet because you will have matured, you won't sweat the small things, which is why women will tell you, those who marry later in life, quote unquote, like maybe 37, 36 onwards, 40, there's so much growth that has happened in that period that now they are married and they can finally settle. Yes, there may be conflict from time to time, but you know who you are, you know your weaknesses, you know your strengths. You're not going to push and pull that, oh, my husband likes his books arranged like this, me, I like them arranged like that. Becomes a non-issue. So when you marry later in life, you have more room to grow. I think women start to really think about growth after their mid-30s. For some, before, like when they hit 30, they're like, oh, I want better for myself. Let me learn, let me grow. But for most women, life is good. Until the man comes, then you are forced into a growth spurt that you didn't prepare for. Every challenge comes, you're frustrated. But all those are opportunities for growth and for maturity, for being mature.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you can do the growth before, by watching me, you're like, okay, maybe I want to do better for myself. Let me start by understanding, who am I? What are my goals in life? What do I want to do? Where are my weaknesses? And you can achieve that growth before you get married.
Yeah. Okay. What role do sacrifice and compromise play to having a successful marriage? And what do you think single women can do to have these aspects in their marriages?
I think there's a lot of room for sacrifice and compromise.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that there's nothing that's unforgivable in marriage. That's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because if you have been wronged, maybe your partner has broken trust.
Yeah.
It will require sacrifice for you to forgive and decide, that I'm going to move on with this person. That is sacrifice. And so I think that if you can train yourself, sacrifice, I think, requires that you have grown in the sense that you're not constantly thinking about you. You've taken the spotlight off of yourself. You say, yes, there are things that I want in life. There are certain luxuries that I want for myself.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to be open to let someone else in. If Emeka is your husband, you say, I'm accommodating him and his needs and desires. So it's not always about me. That's the element of sacrifice. Wow. You're saying, I want this for myself, but let's hear what he wants. Consider him, Compromise would be, remember, you're coming together from different backgrounds. You come from, different families. There's going to be so many scenarios where you'll have to reach a compromise. Let's say your family, as the woman, you guys are very big on family. Over the Christmas period, your families always come together. You have this very big Christmas lunch, and it's like a big deal. It's a tradition that has been kept over the years. Yeah. And now you're married, you want to kind of still be part of
your family.
This tradition, yes. But the marriage suggests that now you're with Emeka, and maybe Emeka in their home, they don't really have tradition in terms of Christmas. You'll probably go to the village. So compromise is, what can we do? So you'll sit down and agree, maybe this year you can go to your family, but now next year we have to start creating our own traditions. That's compromise. But you can't come to that conclusion if you are only thinking about yourself and saying, for me, this tradition has been in our family for years, for generations. I don't care if I'm married. I have to go to my what? To my home. You're insisting on your way. How is that going to help you? How is it going to help your family? So I think removing the spotlight from yourself and learning to consider others, and you can practice that before you get married. Consider your colleagues at the workplace. Consider that boda man. Don't argue over 1,000 shillings, banana. The man probably needs it more than you do. Let him have it. Practice consideration. Practice compromise in the different spaces that you are in, so that when you get into marriage, it will still be a bit hard and unnatural, but at least you understand the concept and you can compromise with your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And finally. What do you wish you had known before getting married? And how can single people learn from your experience? Mostly the single ladies.
What do I wish I had known? That marriage requires a dying to self.
Say that again.
Marriage requires a dying to self. And this is kind of tied into what I was saying earlier. It's not about you. It really isn't. It is, but it is not.
Yeah.
Your happiness, yes, is important, but the overall goal is that the marriage will work. And the marriage working is not so that you can tick a box and say, oh, you know, Emeka and McLean are now married. Bambi, they've been married for 50 years. No, it's for generations. It's for your children. It's for the children that will come after that, your children's children. Right now, of course, we talk about our parents, we talk about our parents' parents, and their marriages have affected the way life has happened for our parents, and now for us, and now for their grandchildren. So I think that when you understand dying to self, a lot of things will be easy in marriage. When you understand that you're not the most important person there is in the world.
Yeah.
You will let go of a lot of things. You will not sweat the small things. You dedicate your life to considering the person that you are with, and hopefully he's doing the same for you.
Yeah.
And you're creating magic. Your home is happy, your marriage is happy, you have a wonderful relationship because you're outdoing each other in consideration. You know, it's like my husband is considering me, I'm considering him.
Yeah.
You know, so just dying to self. And then I wish I had known that I am first an individual before I am a Mrs. someone. And I wish I had taken time to grow that person, like understand Rachel, what does she like? I just had this picture in my head that I wanted to be married and have a bunch of children and just live a simple life. But I didn't take time to get to know myself. I've done that in my very adult life, maybe in the last 7 or so years. And what you see now is a product of going back to God and saying, okay, I don't understand this one I understand. Why am I like this? Why do I get triggered by this? Why do I have insecurities about this? And just working backwards to say, okay, this happened maybe when you were growing up, your relationships, why am I timid in certain spaces? Why do I hate confrontation? Just understanding who you are will allow you to give grace to your husband because you know what he's dealing with. But also you will want to show up as your best self. You constantly want to grow. And I wish I had taken time to build and form my identity before getting married. Because I think a lot of the things that used to happen in the beginning years of my marriage, I would think were about me. I would think my husband is just out to make me mad. It's not about you like that. And I think that that's a level of insecurity that sometimes women face, that when someone is not talking to you, then you peg it to your identity. It's like, oh, maybe because I'm not as beautiful, or this person is doing me a favor to be my friend. This man is marrying me because he's doing me a favor. No, you are worth so much. You know, any man would be blessed to have you as a wife. And I feel like that's the kind of mindset that women should have. It's not about, he's not doing you a favor. You are there as a child of God, and so behave like a child of God.
Wow. It's been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. Every time I want to listen to you. But thank you so much for coming to Rachel. And thank you so much for talking to the single ladies out there. Single ladies, I hope you have picked something. Pesh, I hope you've picked something.
You're naming names.
There are people in this studio here. Anyway, so to the single people, I hope you've really picked something. And one day, one time, I will bring a single person.
You should bring a single guy here.
A single guy and a single lady.
And a single lady,
yes. And they tell us what it is to be single.
Dating these days, man.
Dating is in the pits these days. But thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, greetings back to Ben.
I will.
And the boys.
I will.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been an interesting episode. Do not forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and also subscribe to her channel.
Yes, The Good Wife.
The Good Wife. Yes, go over there, watch her content, really beautiful, beautiful content. But it's been a great episode. Thank you so much. God bless you. Till next time.